Hello, this is Randy Har. As many of you know, my wife Chris and I frequently, well, for the last, I think, 7 or 8 years, have done wildflower walks in the springs at oak openings for Metroparks Toledo. This year we can't do public walks, so just doing a little bit of a slideshow of things that we went out today and looked at on the trail, and maybe it'll give you a little bit of fun rather than not having any wildflowers to look at all. So again, normally we meet, so we're at the Buhner Center at the Mallard Lake parking area. So that's where we sort of started. And again, one of the things we talk about is that you don't have to go very deep down in the woods a lot of times to find wildflowers. So we're going to walk towards the ravine between the upper and lower parking area a little bit. And as you walk here, you get that loop, and just down here is a little ravine. And we'll look in that, and you start seeing some yellow in that, and if you get a closer look at that, you start seeing the flowers onto this. And a little bit closer look, again, we find that this is marsh marigold that's growing in there. Again, here's just the details on the marsh marigold. Again, it's also sometimes called cowslip, because if it's an area where cows slip, I guess. And if you haven't seen it yet, there's still plenty of plants that are still just in bud. So you got a little while before you have to worry about them, disappearing on you. Right next to that area is one of our favorite plants, the skunk cabbage. Again, the flowers actually are housed in these sort of purplish green, in this case, sort of leaves. You see them around at the base, and actually the flower is inside of that. And this is the leafy matter, and this is really one of the dominant plants in wetlands that we have in the early spring. Again, called skunk cabbage because if you rip a leaf, it does not smell especially good. And so inside here is where the actual flowers are, these little bumps on this little cream-colored ball inside of here. Again, later the leaves will get much bigger. If you look over to the right a little bit, you'll see some interesting things over there. So again, these are fiddlehead ferns that again, fiddlehead is the form of them. As they come out, they unravel. Fiddlehead because it's like the carving on the end of a violin or a fiddle, so that spiral in pattern onto it. So again, something you can see as you go around. And as you look around, you'll also start finding some small little flowers around. These are spring beauties. Tell the leaf on them is a very fleshy leaf. And if you look at the flower, it also, you'll see that there's also many buds onto it. So it keeps going for a long time because it has a lot of buds. Again, Claytonia virginica, it's the only members we have locally of the miner's lettuce family. And one thing is the flower petals themselves are really all white, and the color comes from the veins themselves. So as we go walking down the trails a little bit, and there's my wife Chris. So one of the things you might see is this grassy looking thing, which is actually a sedge. So this is Pennsylvania sedge. A little closer look at the end of it. It's starting to progress through the season. Again, you may find some that I haven't progressed quite so much. But again, Pennsylvania sedge or Carex pennsylvanica. Walking, you find some more spring beauties around. Hole where a woodpecker was working. And then you may come across this purplish flower, and you think, or purplish head buds onto it. You think, well, it's going to be a purple flower. But in fact, as it will progress through the year, you'll see these flower heads will open. You can kind of see that in there a little bit already, a little bit of yellow in there. See the leaves are very cut onto them. So this is golden ragwort, so it will start looking like this. One of the very dominant plants of our sort of floodplain areas. Along we'll see some mayaples coming out, but we'll see some more later too. And mayaples, this will eventually turn into an apple, I think. It's flower in here. And then you're walking down the trail a little more, so we've crossed the road down and going down a ways. And things we'll see, again, this is in a little ravine coming here. So we walk down through the trail, something yellow, and it was pretty far off trail, so it was a long shot. But again, that's a swamp buttercup that we'll see. Again, it's another, obviously, buttercup family, just like the marsh marigold, very yellow. This one, the petals on it, once you get close and it gets in, are so shiny it almost looks like they're plastic. As you're walking through, you'll see that the Metroparks has put up signs for things. They have their own little sort of trail things to look at. So this is skunk cabbage sign they have up onto it. You get up here that we're going to go off to the left. The right goes to the Horseshoe Lake Trail. We're going to go to the left following the Silver Trail. And at this corner here, and then farther down, also on the Horseshoe Trail Lake, you'll find this plant, cutleaf toothwort. Some are in bloom, some are just starting. Sorry, this one's a little blurry. But again, you'll find a number of these. That corner is a good spot to find them usually. And this is a member of the mustard family. It's got 4 petals on it, which is common for the mustard family. As you're walking down then the left-hand one, you can spot there's another swamp buttercup there that we found open, and of course some more spring beauties open. And then you come up to the bridge. As you look down the bridge, and this is as you're approaching the bridge on the right-hand side, if you look down very closely, you see this little flower here, some little violets over here, probably common violets. So looking at that plant, though, that's probably the kidney leaf buttercup or bordered buttercup. So we're seeing a lot of buttercups now. Again, aborted because it looks like these flowers should have gotten bigger. They just don't. So again, I like to call it kidney leaf rather than aborted. Again, you see these lower leaves are kind of more kidney shaped. As you come across the bridge and look down to the right, you'll see there's been some recent beaver action. Now, recent, not like in days, but in the last 6 months or so, there's probably been a wandering beaver came through and took this tree down. It's actually a week ago. This tree, due to the high water, has moved down a little bit, but this is still very visible to look at as you come across the bridge. As you go a little bit farther down past the bridge, you start seeing trout lily leaves come up. So the plant takes usually 5 to 7 years to going from being planted to having a flower. So, and once it is ready for flowers, you'll have 2 leaves coming out. So many of these are pretty early on the process and don't have just coming up with 1 leaf. So again, trout lily. Again, it's thought that speckled flower, speckled leaf rather, looks like a trout. Lily, the flower looks very lily-like. There are both yellow and red versions around. I believe, I'm trying to remember, I think we're mostly white in the oak openings, but there are certainly yellows around. As we come and we cross this wooden bridge, and you look over to the right, see when we talk about skunk cabbage being dominant, all these are skunk cabbage plants coming up. So very dominant in this wet, swampy area. As you go walking a little bit farther, there's some woodchuck holes over on the left. As you come up here, we start seeing where we know there's always this 3-leaf plant, or trillium, trillium. Again, the white flower, and that's getting ready to open up a little bit. Probably in a week or 2, you'll start seeing them open up. Again, right now you're just seeing them. This is about as far as long as you're going to find them in the oak openings, I think. Again, very large white flower, very pretty. Again, something that's very attractive. This is the state wildflower of Ohio. It's found in all 88 of our counties. So again, 3 petals, 3 leaves onto it, 3 sepals. So these are 3. We have a few other varieties of trillium that we'll also see a little bit later in the year. But right now, this is the one that's farthest along. More skunk mayaples. You can see them starting to open up a little bit more. Again, ones which have these 2 Y in the stalk, again, which are actually individual leaves. If it has 2 of these stalks onto it that are wide, it will have a flower and then a fruit onto it. If it only has 1, it will not have a flower or fruit. So you come up, we always come up to the next metal bridge there, and this pile of logs here, which always is a sighting for the plants that are there. As we get closer and a little closer, this is Dutchman's breeches. Again, very cut flowers onto it. It's close relative to squirrel corn. At oaks openings, we pretty much have, I believe, just Dutchman's breeches, but I've never seen squirrel corn in it, but around. But I'm sure there is. There certainly is in other parts of the state. Again, you just look at it. This patch has actually been growing out quite substantially over the last few years. It's really nice to see. Again, the branches arch with the different flowers onto it. So this is actually the flower. So these are the flowers, Dutchman's breeches, because they look like little pantaloons hung upside down. You see a bee in there, and bumblebees that have long noses and tongues basically can get down into them. Again, and here's another one. Again, sort of zoom in, you get a really good view of sort of this flower, one all by itself. Again, why it's called Dutchman's breeches. Get down a little bit further, and right before this bridge, you start seeing this flower. And this was the opening flower I had in, and this is Hepatica. Very pretty flower. Again, it's got very almost iridescent colors onto it. Again, ours is the round-leafed one. Now, this is an interesting point in that this leaf, again, is from last year. The leaves last about 12 months onto it, maybe a little more. And when this leaf is and the flowering is done, this leaf will wither and a new leaf will take its place. Sometimes you can already find them at the same time. As they come out of the ground, they're very hairy. It's thought to help them with the cold as they come out of the ground, so they're not damaged if you have a cold day coming up. So these are the buds are covered with these really heavy, almost fur on them. Again, the variety of colors, you have blues, you have whites, you have some pinks sometimes. Again, Hepatica leaf is supposed to look like one of these lobes, is supposed to look like a kidney. For a while, people were using this as for kidney medicine, but of course it doesn't actually work, and we've gotten smarter than that. So again, we have round-lobed Hepatica. There also is also an Ohio sharp-lobed Hepatica. Again, you tend to find this on hillsides, but again, very pretty flower. There were also birds out there. I just caught a little bit of this bird out there that was a woodpecker that was swinging around this tree. Again, kind of a long shot, but I managed to get a little bit of a picture of him. And then finally, a plant that's coming along here. So this would be early meadow rue. It's just starting to come out. Just starting to see some of the leaves and the flowers that are on here. Again, this will be a few weeks. Again, this has different male and female flowers. This is the male flower with these long hanging stamens that look kind of like tassels. So again, I hope that was a little bit of entertainment for you. Again, you can't get out or you can't get on one of our walks certainly now. You can maybe watch this and have a little fun. So stay safe on the trails. Thank you.